Hello, thanks for joining us for a look at this week's culture news. And first, her film Barbie leads the Golden Globe nominations, and it's this year's biggest box office hit worldwide. After a stellar year, Greta Gerwig has been named as the president of the jury of next year's Cannes Film Festival. The 40-year-old, who's also an actor, is the first woman to do so since Cate Blanchett in 2018. Gerwig is now the most bankable female film director in history. The 77th Cannes Film Festival kicks off in May. Next, one of Europe's most expensive painters, Scottish artist Peter Doig, is the focus of an exhibition at Paris's Musée d'Orsay. On display is a group of large paintings made during the 2 decades the artist lived in Trinidad. Catherine Viette reports.
Their names are known throughout the art world. Leonardo da Vinci, Andy Warhol, Rembrandt. Now Scottish artist Peter Doig is following in their footsteps, with critics calling him one of the greatest living painters. This work by Doig sold for 36 million euros in 2021, attesting to his immense popularity. Boats inspire him. In this famous painting, a man is sitting alone in a canoe. The composition is based on a photograph of the rock group Europe taken in the 1970s. But Doig chose to jettison the other 3 figures. Another boat, this time the inspiration is the island of Trinidad where the artist lives. Large formats, bright colors, and tropical landscapes are Doig's signature style.
This painting was a combination of the real world, the 2 trees that actually is outside of my house in Trinidad. Both these characters were based on professional ice hockey players practicing in New York.
One of the reasons for Doig's popularity in today's art market, he's helped bring figurative painting back into fashion, in contrast to some of his contemporaries. Heir to the great masters, his works are in demand with collectors, but he tries not to let the success go to his head.
I really don't think I'm driven by the market or by the money that the paintings make. I have to try and ignore that, really. I mean, I have to put my blinkers on and sort of try and just make new painting.
He's the subject of a solo exhibition at the Musée d'Orsay, with the works on display chosen by the artist himself.
Entitled Reflections of the Century, the exhibition is on until January. Next, to the most famous contemporary African painter of his generation, the colourful and committed paintings of Congolese artist Cheri Samba are on show at Paris's Musée Maillol until April. More than 40 years of his career are brought together in the 50 works on display. Louise Dupont went to meet him.
I didn't choose to become a painter. When I was a child, I couldn't stop myself from doodling on bits of paper or even on the floor. It's who I was. I didn't have a choice. I like things that catch your eye. Not just having lots of bright colors, but when I opened my own atelier, I decided to put in place my idea of incorporating a comic book aspect to my works. I put speech bubbles, despite certain critics saying, no, you shouldn't have writings on paintings. I particularly love painting. I love drawing on a daily basis. At one point in my life, I called myself a journalist painter. I like calling things out. I like challenging people's moral compass, because I paint not just for the sake of painting, it's mainly to challenge people and their beliefs.
Now to Japan's modern-day hermits, the hikikomori. It's thought nearly 1.5 million people have withdrawn from Japanese society, leading reclusive lives largely confined within their homes. A French photographer has spent months gaining the trust of some of these people to document their daily lives. His work is on display at the Musée Museum in Paris. Yinka Oyetade has more.
They've chosen to live in solitude, cutting themselves off from the world and each other. They are known as the hikikomori. In Japan, a country shaped by societal pressures, the hikikomori want to be invisible. Photographer Pierre-Elie de Pibrac went to meet some. His photos are now on display at the Musée Museum in Paris.
There's a very cinematic side to Pierre-Elie's way of taking photos. They're wide-angle photos, and a lot of thought goes into how he constructs his images.
It's not very tidy.
Et voilà.
I've been traveling for almost 15 years with the same equipment. This is my camera. It's a Linhof. I take all my photographs in color with it, and some in black and white.
It's difficult to get exact figures, but it's estimated that upwards of 1.5 million people live as hikikomori in Japan. It's a phenomenon that affects men and women, cutting across all generations. The majority of hikikomori, though, are aged between 15 and 40 years old.
It's a phenomenon that emerged en masse in the 90s following Japan's prolonged recession, and it stayed. These people find themselves living on the margins of society, enclosed in their bedrooms, which, for them, is their cocoon of trust.
Pierre-Elie de Pibrac managed to get some hikikomori out of their homes to capture their lives on film. It's a long-term project, as some hikikomori stay isolated for years. Their parents are often the only contact they have with the outside world.
It was a 6-month journey to take this photo. The man is looking at his daughter who is alive but maybe socially dead. There's a very strong bond between these two people, a hopeful bond. Her father came to the house and said that this photo project had brought his daughter back to life.
The Portrait éphémère du Japon exhibition is at Paris's Musée Museum until January 15th.
Well, staying in Japan and the ancient performing art of Kabuki, throughout its 400-year history, performances have featured mainly male actors. France 24 reporters have been to meet a legend of Kabuki, Bando Tamasabura, the fifth, who's performing at the Kabukiza Theatre in Tokyo. His colourful costumes are also on display at Oxford University. Justin McCurry reports.
Pearly white face and jet black hair. But the striking features of this young woman actually belong to a 73-year-old man, Bando Tamasaburo V, a Grand Master of Kabuki theatre.
I've rehearsed a lot as an actress.
In this 400-year-old Japanese performing art, it's common for male actors to play female roles. They're called onnagata.
I assume this position when I play a young girl. Like this for a woman, and like this for an older woman.
He possesses a rare elegance, even when wearing a 15-kilogram kimono.
When you wear a kimono, you have to imagine that your body continues downwards, as if the costume is a part of you.
Only a handful of actors enjoy the privilege of wearing kimono with gold embroidery. Kabuki is traditionally passed down from father to son, but Bando is a rare exception.
We had a neighbor who was a Kabuki actor and a friend of my father's. I like to dance, so he offered me the chance to get involved.
Bando made his stage debut when he was just 7. After a string of successes and international tours, he was designated a living national treasure by the Japanese government.
I don't think there will ever be an onagata like him. He's a Japanese national treasure.
A potential future star is breaking new ground in Kabuki, and he has a connection to France. Like Bando, this French-Japanese prodigy doesn't come from an established Kabuki family. Aged just 10, Onoe Maholo this year became the first binational actor to perform on the professional Kabuki stage.
And finally, it was recently adapted for the big screen, starring Melissa Barrera and Paul Mescal, directed by French choreographer Benjamin Millepied. Now, another, slightly different version of Georges Bizet's famous work is on stage in Paris, called Carmen, by the dance troupe Chico Samambo. We're going to leave you with that. Thanks for watching. See you next time.